So, what if I told you that for most companies, their biggest, most valuable assets aren't their factories or their patents or even the products they sell? We're going to unpack the one thing that truly determines a company's long-term worth, and it's probably not what you think. Let's just start with a really fundamental question. When you picture a huge, successful company, what do you think is its most valuable asset? Is it the famous brand name, the cutting-edge tech, maybe all the real estate it owns? Well, the real answer is kind of the foundation of all modern business strategy. The answer, believe it or not, is the customers. And I don't just mean this month's sales figures. I mean the combined total lifetime value of every single person who has ever bought from them, who buys from them now, and who will buy from them in the future. It's a huge shift in perspective, right? A company's true value isn't in what it owns, it's in the relationships it's able to build. This whole idea brings us to a really powerful financial concept, one that forces us to look way beyond this quarter's sales report and focus on what creates real, sustainable value over the long haul. It's called customer equity. Now, this isn't just some fluffy marketing term. It is a hard-nosed financial measure. Basically, you calculate the total profit you expect from every single customer over their entire lifetime, and then you discount that back to what it's worth today. So, in other words, it's all the future cash flow from all your customers rolled into one single number. And here's why this is such a game changer. Companies that really get this see themselves not as a collection of products, but as a portfolio of customers. Every customer is like a little profit center, and they are the only source of all future cash. Thinking this way just changes everything about how a business makes decisions. So you might be asking, where does all this customer equity actually come from? Well, it's not just one big thing. It's actually built on three very distinct pillars, and each one represents a different way the customer evaluates a company.
Yep, it all boils down to these three core components.
All right, here are the three pillars. First up, you've got value equity. This is all about the customer's logical, rational brain looking at things like price, quality, and convenience. Then you've got the more emotional side of things, brand equity and relationship equity. For the rest of this explainer, we're really going to zero in on that first foundational pillar, value equity.
Okay, let's dive into value equity. This pillar is all about the cold, hard math happening inside a customer's head, their logical, pretty unbiased assessment of what a company is offering.
Now, the most important thing to get here is that value equity is decided entirely by the customer. It doesn't matter what the company thinks it offers. All that matters is what the customer perceives they are getting for what they have to give up. And believe me, every single customer is running this equation whether they realize it or not. On one side of their mental scale, they're weighing what they get, the product, its features, the service. And on the other side, they're weighing what they have to give up. Real value is only created when that get side feels a whole lot heavier than the give up side. And that give up side, it is so much more than just the price tag. It includes the time you spent Googling and reading reviews, the mental energy it takes to make a decision, and even, the psychological stress of a complicated checkout process or terrible customer service. All of that gets weighed. So how can a company tip that value scale in their favor? Well, they've basically got three big levers to pull: price, convenience, and the one we're about to totally deconstruct, quality. Because truly understanding what quality means to a customer, that's the absolute key to mastering value. And that brings us right to the heart of the value equation, perceived quality. I mean, we all think we know what quality is, right? But from a customer's point of view, it's a very, very specific calculation. This is probably the most powerful and simple definition of quality you'll ever hear. It's not about fancy materials or having a million features. At its absolute core, quality is just, did you satisfy the customer's needs? Did you actually solve the problem they came to you to fix? That's it. And we can break that down even more. Quality really has three parts. First, did you meet the customer's basic requirements? Did the thing do what it was supposed to do? Second, was it reliable? Was it dependable and consistent? And third, what was the overall experience like, from the very beginning to the very end? Just think about a restaurant. The food, the actual product, it could be the best you've ever had. But if the service is super slow and your waiter is rude, your perception of the total quality of that meal just tanks. It's a perfect example of how the process of getting the thing matters just as much as the thing itself. Okay, so we've really drilled down into what quality looks like through the customer's eyes. Now, let's connect the dots and see how this one thing directly fuels a company's profitability. You can see the whole chain reaction right here. It all starts with high perceived quality. That leads directly to customer satisfaction. Happy customers stick around, which means higher retention. That builds real loyalty. And that loyalty is what creates massive lifetime value for each customer, which ultimately builds up the company's total customer equity. It's a direct line, from a good experience all the way to long-term financial health. And this leads us to one final super important distinction. A lot of companies get obsessed with being efficient, doing things fast, cheap, the bare minimum. But here's the thing, customers don't really care about your efficiency. They care about effectiveness. Did you actually solve their problem? It's way better to be effective and maybe a little inefficient than to be super efficient at failing to help your customer. And that really leaves us with a big question to think about. Is your business or any company you deal with just focused on being efficient, or is it truly focused on being effective? Because as we've just seen, customers only value and pay for effectiveness, and that is the only real path to building lasting value.